Frank came along at a time, or the time was right for him. He was ready at a time when the French Connection heroin had dried up. As the story tells us, he took the bold choice of finding his own source.
In the 1960s and 70s, while most gangsters in Harlem were hustling for scraps, Frank Lucas was already thinking like a CEO. In an era ruled by the Italian mafia, he built a heroin empire so vast it stretched from the muddy jungles of Southeast Asia to the bustling streets of New York City. His method? Smuggling pure heroin inside the coffins of fallen American soldiers returning from Vietnam. A plan so daring it shocked both law enforcement and organized crime itself. Frank Lucas didn't just sell drugs. He built an empire that rivaled Fortune 500 companies. His operation made him millions of dollars a day, all while dressing in quiet luxury and outsmarting the mafia. This video uncovers the extraordinary rise and fall of Frank Lucas, from rural poverty in North Carolina to becoming one of the most notorious drug lords in American history. Stay tuned until the end to discover how his reign ended, the shocking details of his cooperation with the DEA, and how Hollywood immortalized his life in American Gangster. Frank Lucas was born on September 9, 1930, in LaGrange, North Carolina, a time when poverty in the South hit harder than any bullet. His childhood was defined by struggle, racism, and fear. He would later claim that the turning point came when, at just 6 years old, he witnessed his cousin murdered by hooded Klansmen. A story never verified, but one that fueled his rage and ambition for the rest of his life. By his teenage years, Lucas was already hustling. He stole food to feed his siblings, mugged drunks outside taverns, and learned early that power came not from kindness, but control. When an affair with his boss's daughter nearly got him killed, Lucas retaliated, stealing money, burning down the business, and fleeing to New York, with his mother's desperate plea still ringing in his ears. Run before they catch you. When Frank Lucas stepped off the bus in Harlem in 1946, he didn't see despair. He saw opportunity. Harlem was alive, electric, and dangerous. Street gangs, gambling, and rackets. Money flowed in every shadow. Lucas quickly learned that playing by the rules didn't make you rich. Breaking them did. He robbed bars, beat down rivals, and pulled off heists with a mix of street smarts and unflinching violence. It wasn't long before his ruthlessness caught the attention of the legendary Harlem mob boss, Ellsworth "Bumpy" Johnson, a man who ruled uptown crime with a mix of charm and terror. Under Johnson, Lucas learned the ropes: discipline, loyalty, and fear. But when Bumpy died in 1968, Lucas saw an opening, and he seized it with both hands. Harlem was up for grabs, and he intended to take it all. Frank Lucas didn't just want to be rich. He wanted to be Donald Trump rich, before Donald Trump was even famous. He realized that to dominate Harlem's heroin trade, he had to cut out the middlemen, the mafia, and go straight to the source. So in one of the boldest moves in criminal history, Lucas flew to Thailand in 1968 with little more than cash and courage. There, in the sweaty chaos of Bangkok, he met his distant cousin, Leslie Ike Atkinson, a former U.S. Army sergeant who had deep connections with soldiers fighting in Vietnam. Together, they formed a pipeline from the opium fields of the Golden Triangle, where poppies were processed into near-pure heroin, to the streets of New York. To move the product, Lucas reportedly used American military planes, and according to urban legend, the coffins of fallen soldiers, though some say he used furniture with hidden compartments instead. Regardless of the method, the result was undeniable. Blue Magic, his brand of heroin, was purer, cheaper, and more addictive than anything on the market. Back in New York, Lucas built an empire on family loyalty. He recruited his brothers and cousins from North Carolina, the Country Boys, trustworthy men who knew discipline and kept their mouths shut. Together, they controlled 116th Street, turning Harlem into a fortress of money, drugs, and violence. Lucas ran his operation like a businessman. He bought heroin for a fraction of the mafia's price and diluted it just enough to maximize profit. His product flooded the city, feeding addiction and making him unimaginably wealthy. He had money hidden in banks across the Cayman Islands, properties from Detroit to Puerto Rico, and a ranch in North Carolina filled with prize cattle. He once bragged about earning $1 million a day, and it wasn't far from the truth. Despite the fortune, Lucas lived by a strange contradiction. He flaunted wealth at times, rolling up to boxing matches in a $100,000 chinchilla coat and a matching hat gifted by his wife, Juliana, but often dressed plainly to avoid attention. He mingled with the elite. Muhammad Ali, James Brown, and Diana Ross all knew his name. He poured money into movies, businesses, and a lavish lifestyle few gangsters could imagine. But his real obsession wasn't fame, it was power. Every dollar he earned was a symbol of victory over the establishment that once tried to break him. Frank Lucas's success came with a deadly cost. His heroin was so pure it caused thousands of overdoses across the country. While Harlem bled, he thrived, and the law took notice. By the mid-1970s, federal agents and an incorruptible prosecutor named Richie Roberts were on the trail. Roberts saw through the glamour and saw a man who, as he once said, killed more black people than the KKK. In 1975, a DEA strike team stormed Lucas's New Jersey mansion. His wife panicked, throwing suitcases stuffed with cash out the window. Over $500,000 in street money. Hidden bank keys, property deeds, and a ticket to a United Nations ball were among the treasures seized. The empire was crumbling. When one of Lucas's nephews broke under interrogation, the dominoes fell. Arrests swept through his family and network. Facing 70 years in prison, Frank Lucas made the one move no one expected. He flipped. Lucas became a government informant, exposing corrupt cops, dirty DEA agents, and mafia associates alike. His cooperation led to more than 150 arrests, including members of his own family. The man who had once ruled Harlem now helped dismantle its criminal underworld. In return, his sentence was cut from decades to just 15 years. But the allure of the streets never left him. In 1984, barely out of prison, Lucas was arrested again in a botched drug deal. Ironically, his former nemesis, Richie Roberts, now a defense attorney, defended him in court. Their strange friendship continued, and Roberts even became the godfather of Lucas's son. When Frank Lucas finally walked free in the early 1990s, Harlem was unrecognizable, decayed, scarred, and haunted by the very addiction he had fueled. For the first time, he saw the destruction his empire had caused. "I did terrible things," he admitted later. "I'm sorry. I really am." In his later years, Lucas worked with his daughter's nonprofit, Yellow Brick Roads, to support children of incarcerated parents. Though his efforts could never undo the past, they showed a man trying to rewrite his legacy before the end. Hollywood came calling in 2007 with American Gangster, starring Denzel Washington and Russell Crowe, a film that turned Frank Lucas into both a legend and a cautionary tale. When he died in 2019 at age 88, the world remembered him not just as a drug lord, but as a man who rose from nothing, defied the mafia, outsmarted the system, and paid the ultimate price for it. Frank Lucas blurred the line between genius and evil, ambition and destruction. He saw opportunity where others saw risk, turned crime into business, and turned Harlem into his empire. Yet behind the legend was a man chasing power to fill the emptiness of a stolen childhood. His story isn't just about crime. It's about the American dream gone dark. A tale of brilliance, greed, and redemption that reminds us how one man's rise can leave an entire city in ruin.